Hello everyone and welcome to another What I Think review. So today I have been lucky enough to get my hands on this. This is the second B&M Monsters box set. Now obviously, as you've seen in the thumbnail, I have two of these. Just want to say right from the start, I'm not giving away any of these figures. I have uses for both of these box sets. I know that some people find these rare to find, but these all have uses for things in future, which I won't talk about now, but yeah, I'm sorry, but I'm not willing to give away any of them. But so I thought I'd give this a review, seeing as I've got it. Now, obviously, it's a very nice looking set, especially from the outside. You've got some lovely new redesigns of some great figures in here, and obviously front view, side view, back view. It's all very, all these B&M sets, they're all very similar, which is nice in a way, because it means that you've just it's nice and simple. It's does what it says on the box basically. So yeah, there's not a huge amount to see inside the box, but obviously just to sorry, it's not a huge amount to see on the outside of the box, but just tell you what's on the inside of the box. So we have a re-release of the Tomb of the Cybermen Cyber Controller, which is a new variant. We have a new variant of an Attack Cyberman, and we also have a slightly new variant of the new series Sontaran figures. Now, just before I get on to actually reviewing the figures in this box set, I had a thought about this, and it seems that a few other people think the same thing. And with this particular box set, it's hard to call it a monsters box set. I mean, obviously, yes, these are monsters from Doctor Who, but you've got two Cybermen, and then you've got a Sontaran. Now, if we look back at, say, the first monsters set, you had a Zygon, an Invasion Cyberman, and an Ice Warrior. Now, if it was me, personally, what I would have done is I would have taken the Invasion Cyberman out of the first monsters box set and replace it with a classic Sontaran figure, not a new series one like this. I would have used a classic Sontaran figure. And then the second Monsters pack, i.e. this pack, becomes a new version of the Age of Steel Tesco exclusive pack. And in doing that, I would actually have three different packs that you could have. You could have several different variants, even just re-releases. I mean, I know there are lots of figures, like people would like to see a Moonbase Wheel in Space Cyberman, or they would like to see the Attack Cyber Controller, or they would like to see a new 5-inch version of the current series Cyberman. I would love to see those as well, but obviously the whole point of the B&M sets is that they re-release old figures, maybe with new variants. So it's unlikely that we would get completely new sculpts. So what I would do, I would have basically keep this as it is. This is pack 1, but replace the new series Sontaran with an Invasion Cyberman, and then the second Age of Steel pack, new Age of Steel pack, would have a 10th Planet Cyberman, a Revenge Cyberman, and a Silver Nemesis Cyberman. And then the third pack would have a Stealth Cyberman, a new series version of the Cyber Leader from A Good Man Goes to War, which would be a new variant. And then lastly, I would have a Tomb of the Cyberman in it. Now, as I said, I think if B&M Character Options Underground Toys are watching, I'm sure they're not, but if they were, obviously you've re-released this now, so you're obviously not going to re-release these two again with a new pack. But certainly, I think you need to look at re-releasing. They need to look at re-releasing a classic Sontaran, and I certainly think that with the different Cyberman variants we've got, and the fact that we've got several ones that have only been released sort of once, such as the Stealth Cyberman or the Silver Nemesis Cyberman, I certainly think it's a perfect opportunity to do something that is a Cyberman pack, or do several Cyberman packs. So I certainly hope we see something like that in future, and it is definitely something that, as I said, this is a brilliant looking set, and there's no problem with any of the figures in here. They're fantastic looking figures that we'll get onto in a minute, but I don't feel like this is a monster set. I feel like this is more a Cyberman set with a monster included. I think if it had been a solely Cyberman set, it could have it would have been much better, I think. But anyway, that is the set. Let's go on to reviewing the figures. So first up here we have the Tomb Cyber Controller. Now this is a re-release of the original collect and build version, and I have the original collect and build version here so I can compare the two. Obviously, as you can see, there are several differences, the most notable ones being obviously the darker head on the new version with the silver band around the dome. The piping also has a much darker weathering, although interestingly this one seems to have an overall darker look until you get to the feet, at which point you realise that the shoes on the original collect and build version are actually darker than the ones on the new figure. The other interesting thing about this version, obviously the collect and build version, as you know if you've got one, obviously came in parts, so you collected it and you built it. The interesting thing about this version is this still uses, and I'm going to try and do this very carefully, but as you can see I can't quite do it because I don't want to break it, but this still uses the original collect and build casting. Again, I'm hoping you can see this on camera, but basically the arms, head, legs, torso, everything on this figure can actually be taken apart into each of its individual pieces. So obviously they've used exactly the same moulding, they've just updated it a little bit, which certainly starts to make you wonder, could this be a way forward of re-releasing other collect and build figures? I know, for example, a lot of people would like to see the K1 robot released. Unfortunately, that is a little bulky and a little big for a B&M set, but it still makes you realise that actually it would be a great opportunity to re-release collect and build figures that people missed out on. Obviously, you know, they could update the variants of them and make them look a bit more, you know, a bit more sparkly and updated. But obviously, you know, as a cyber controller figure, it's a great figure, and it certainly looks very good if you've got it displayed, as I said, alongside the original collect and build one. Out of these two, I have to say that I think I actually prefer the new version. There's nothing wrong with the original collect and build one. It's still a very nice looking figure, but it's the small details, it's the little things that they've added to this new one, like the black wash on the pipes and the silver band on the dome. I'm not quite sure about the darkness of the head. It looks a little bit too dark to me. But it still is a fantastic looking figure, and it is certainly one that I think that this is why this particular B&M set sold so very well, is because this is a figure that, you know, that people really wanted, and it's great to see it and have it finally released. So next up we have the Attack Cyberman. Now this version, the Attack Cyberman, this is actually this is interesting because a lot of people said that this was the Rogue Cyberman figure with a new version of its paint, and obviously this is the Rogue Cyberman with a new version of paint application. But it's interesting because this is actually a mix of parts, and there's a very good way that you can tell this. Now the only actual Attack Cyberman I have is actually my custom version of the Attack Cyber Controller, and obviously underneath this is a normal Attack Cyberman as a base. And so the interesting thing about this is the fact that you've got the Rogue Cyberman body, and the way you can tell this is because it's got the updated sculpt of the boots that the Rogue Cyberman had, compared to the bigger, what I call the Ugg boots that the other Attack Cybermen had. But the interesting thing here is that what this doesn't possess is the Rogue Cyberman head, because the faceplate that is normally on the Rogue Cyberman figure is not here. And that means that this is not the Rogue Cyberman head. This is a normal Cyberman attack Cyberman head, which means they have actually combined some parts, which is interesting, because obviously that means that this is not generally a re-release figure. This is a new variant. But what I think is most interesting about it is that it means that there is potential for B&M to do that for character options to do that in future, to swap across some parts, which certainly does open up the avenue for lots of different figures to have over the years. So yeah, it's a great looking figure, and it's nice to have a sort of, a clean, updated sculpt. It's not bright and pristine and clean, as you can see. It's still a little grimy. But in a way, I think that works for the figure. It lends itself to having a more sort of tarnished metal look. And when you look at it in comparison, I said, to a normal attack Cyberman, it certainly does stand out well. The paint, the gun has new paint application as well. I have to say that I am not particularly au fait with how the original paint application on the gun looked, but it does say that there is new paint application on the gun. But yeah, that's really it for this one. It's a nice simple figure. It's a clean version of the attack Cyberman. It's again certainly one that I think a lot of people wanted, and it's good to see them finally re-releasing it. So yeah, interesting inclusion of an interesting variant of a figure, and one that perhaps, who knows, has some interesting future connotations for things that character options could do, new variants and swapping parts over on existing figures. And lastly, we get on to this Sontaran. Now, this is again a slightly different variant to ones we've had before in terms of its metallic paint, and the main sort of differences on these two other Sontaran figures is often usually the style of the badge on it as well. Obviously, this chappie his helmet does come off, and underneath we have the usual Christopher Ryan style face, but obviously this is Score. Yeah, now I hate to use the word let down, but I would say that this is the low point of this is the low figure of this box set, because basically it's a great looking Sontaran figure, and it's great if people get this and they need a Sontaran figure, but the simple truth is that Sontaran figures are worth a dime a dozen on eBay, the new series ones anyway. And to be perfectly honest, I just look at this and think it would have been so much better if they'd had a classic Sontaran, just simply because a classic Sontaran variant is something that is hard to get hold of, and it's something that they could have done a change in paint application to have something a bit different. They could have had a two Doctors variant with just a simple bit of changing on the paint and things like that, but instead they decided to release a new series version, and as I said, it's not a bad figure, but there's nothing to say about it. It's a Sontaran figure. It's a new series Sontaran figure. We've seen lots of them, and here we have another one. So I certainly think that again, CO, UT, B&M, if you're watching, I highly doubt you are. But in future, I have nothing against the Sontarans, and I'm sure many other fans don't. But if you are going to release a Sontaran in a future box set, please make it a classic one, because we've seen enough of the new series ones for now. Re-release the classic figures. They're the ones that the fans want to see, because they're so hard to get hold of, and I guarantee you, in all seriousness, if they had included a classic Sontaran in this box set, not only did you have a collect and build figure that had been re-released, not only did you have a new series variant, a new variant of a classic series Cyberman, but if you'd included a classic Sontaran in this box set, they would have sold out within minutes. They really would have been off the shelves quicker than anything. So yeah, it's certainly something that I think they need to pay more attention to in future. So fingers crossed that one day somebody does watch this video and they listen to what I'm saying, what the fans want. Yeah, it's a great Sontaran figure, but unfortunately it is still just a Sontaran figure. And so that concludes my review for this B&M The Monsters 2 collector's set. Yeah, it's a very good set overall. Highly one that I would recommend getting if you can still get your hands on it. It's not without its faults, and I still stand by that I think it would be better off as a Cyberman collector's box set, but it is still one that is well worth getting. As always, I hope you enjoyed this video. Like, favourite, subscribe, share, it really helps me out a lot, and be sure to check out the description below for a link to my Patreon. There is an exclusive webcomic and rewards for people who support it, and the funding generated by my Patreon helps me fund future videos. I salute you all, and I will see you with another video very soon.